Okay. All right, I'd like to call the meeting of the Capital Projects Committee in order at 3:02. Roll call, please.
Stover.
Here.
Strachey.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Here. I will now open up to the courtesy of the floor. State your name and where you live.
Yeah, Merle Schweitzer. As I was sitting there, I was just thinking, when I came in at the night at the table, that there would have been a copy of the minutes for the previous meeting, just for information. Just a thought.
Thank you. I don't think we've worked through those yet, correct?
We've never done that before, but yeah, but
February minutes will be board approved meeting. Yeah.
because the minutes, the normal process, it's, what is it, at least a month delay from the time you had the meeting to the minutes actually go to before the board. But it'd be a good way to refresh, particularly the people who are not a part of the administration like myself, refresh their memories from what went on at the previous meeting. The other thing, on the courtesy of the floor, at this point in time, the agenda items, I've seen them now just for the first time. I don't really know what the agenda items are about. But you go to the first agenda item and you start having a presentation, a discussion, questions might come up. But there's no way for me to ask a question with this process. So,
And we will have a courtesy of the floor at the end, like we normally do.
well, that's the other thing. Okay, so it's like the first go around on the different agenda. It's kind of like a shot in the dark. You don't really know. And so when during the presentation, that's when you may have a question, but you can't ask that question during the presentation. You have to wait till the end on the second courtesy of the floor. So you're out of the sequence. You know what I mean? I just thinking about that. But whatever. Thank you.
Does anybody else want to go now or wait till the end?
Bob Pryor, Mifflin Township. Monday night, when I brought up before the board the question on spending $120,000 on this fob system, that's approximately $20,000 for each school. So when we look at two schools, Avis and Saladaceburg, that you haven't decided yet on whether to keep them open or close them, whatever. When I asked you to put that on the back burner, there wasn't a response. Nobody even discussed it. Sometimes I think it's worthless to come to board meetings because depending on who you are, you don't have any darn input because you know what I want and some of you know what you want. But don't forget the fidelity thing about the oath of office you took. Anyway, concerning the building tours, will that be open to the taxpayers as you go through a building looking at it as a capital projects committee? Will that be open to taxpayers?
It will not, because that's a security concern. I can't just let anybody come in and walk through a building.
I would be with everybody here and you could search me. I'm a taxpayer.
It's more about knowing where the inner workings of the building are and the controls than what you're going to see while you're there.
I already know. I was on the board for 8 years.
Not much has changed in the building infrastructure in 8 years.
Well, anyway, I would like to know if you're going to, Mr. Superintendent, if you're going to have meetings at each school for the taxpayers whose kids are going to that school, plus grandparents, whatever, taxpayers, and have the appropriate region director with you so that the taxpayers can actually ask questions of their directors and get an answer. Right now, it seems they run and hide. You know, phone ID, you call them, they don't pick up, they know who you are. When can we ask our school directors their thoughts on different things? I mean, when are we going to be able to do that? I know when there were meetings at each school, I know I was to most of them. There weren't as many there as I would hope, but I think we ought to have a chance to ask our directors where they're coming from. I would like to see that. I thought that was a good program.
Members want to respond to that?
I don't remember it as being board directors responding, but maybe they did. It was the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and the principal of the building. But maybe I'm wrong on it.
There were meetings, by the way.
Well, right, I agree
So-
with you. There were meetings and they were at every building. They were at every building, but I don't believe board members openly, that you ask them
Why
questions.
not? I think that should be at least a requirement because they're representing us. Where can I ask them questions in public to get an answer from them? That's what I want to know. If we want transparency, that's the way we got to go. And I will keep bringing that up. Thank you.
Bert Francis, Jersey Shore, PA. Good afternoon, a great day. Question, Capital Projects Committee that you people serve on, where in our board policies do you people fall relative what your assignment is to achieve and do for the school district? I'm looking at policy 701, and I think 701 states capital projects, no, that's not the capital projects committee. 701 is facilities planning, or I'd like to squeeze this in. I have no idea. I've asked this question a good many times. What directions do you take from board policy as to how you conduct the business? We got to follow board policy, I would assume, wouldn't it? Yeah.
There's a board policy for board committees. There's a, there, I'm looking at. What policy number is that? I was looking for, of course, I always hit the wrong button anyway, but that's. Policy 005 organization.
005
Yep.
organization, okay. So I'll be able to go there and see what and how you guys. So I'll follow up on that, and at the last board meeting, and for a long, long time now, and I have a whole stack of emails here relative to what you people are doing now with the architects coming in and doing walkthroughs and coming up with costs, whatever. It's my understanding that the Capital Projects Committee in the past, and I commend you for this, you know I do, because you did come up with a plan that was a great plan for our school district, and you folks were able to do that yourself. And I have a copy of that plan here that our superintendent of buildings, grounds, and others have gone through our facilities, they've marched through, they've done a Capital Projects Committee tour as they are obligated to do, because it's, in my opinion, it's your responsibility under this committee to maintain and upkeep our buildings in a good repair and state, which I will add to that. I've been around here more than anybody else, every building, so on and so forth. All of you people have always taken good care of our buildings, kept them up, remodeled, done whatever to keep them necessary. So you run into two categories here. You people are allowed, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, under your jurisdiction,
you have a cutoff point of $15,000. Something comes up or whatever, you can spend $15,000 to go ahead and take care of miscellaneous small items. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, but I think I've read that. So then we get into the point where we have a reserve fund. We have funds, if we have major concerns, something major breaking down and so on and so forth, then the state requires us to keep X number of dollars in reserve to cover major problems. Am I correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. All right. So now I've got 20 emails from some of you people sitting there, previous board members, and everything else, when the first mention of doing a study came up back with the previous administration. It was decided that it would, based on the document that you people came up with, the Capital Projects Committee, the document you came up with, and all the cost on this document. This is a great document you people did. So it was stated, well, let's do this. We're going to add up everything in here. We're going to add up everything in this study that you people have done. And maybe, rather than do it the way it should be done, we'll go out and borrow or get enough money to take care of all of them at once. Get everything done at once. Correct me as I go along. Make sure I'm saying what's true. So from that resulted, way back when, there were assignments given to different people. I think Mr. Enders was, Dr. Day was one, and one of theirs, they were to go out and approach people to come in and do a study for us. I started requesting from people, what kind of study are you requesting? What directions are you giving whoever's going to give us a price on doing studies? To date, I have not received a reasonable answer. So I would share all these emails that I've done over the years.
You're over your time, sir.
Huh?
You're over your 3 minutes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4, project discussions. And Dr. Ulmer will, there's 5 items that he will bring us up to date on.
The first one, the follow-up from the presentation on Monday night. I just want to make sure that, first of all, does anybody have any questions on this committee that they've thought of since Monday? I need to take back to the hunt team.
It's not a question more than an observation. This presentation was only from questions that we specifically asked, and they didn't go beyond and use their expertise and give us other options if there are other options available.
I noticed one thing that Hunt did was to incorporate the figures from the educational space remodeling that they wanted to do in the schools, which was approximately $11 million. That came into account when they did their options. So if those options are not in there, or if that money says not in there, it's deducted from the total amount, then we might be able to make a different judgment on what we would want to do when we're making a decision.
Oh,
That was the only thing I noticed.
I believe that 11 million though was in the presentation on January 24th. This was not the first time that they talked about.
But the point I'm trying to make is the figures that they came up with are skewed if we're not going to include the remodeling. You see what I mean? It would be
There's
different.
two-
The options would be different.
Yeah, there's those 2 columns in that.
Yeah.
I have it in front of me, but you're saying if you take out option, the second column.
Yes.
I know what you're trying to say. The
Yeah.
first column
Take out the
Thank you.
educational
is
space.
the HVAC building infrastructure upgrades, and the second column is educational space. And
Yes.
you want us to focus on
Yes.
the first column costs and the first column items.
I just think that makes a difference in all the options that they gave us. Right?
Well, I believe that at some point, and there's some point being very soon, and I've said just that 2 months ago, we need to start prioritizing. And we're going to have our bond people in here in March, and I'm not so sure what their presentation is going to look like, but in my opinion, they need some kind of ballpark number as to what kind of borrowing we may be talking about. And we're not even close to having that number. I mean, is it 66 million? Is it 55 million? Is it 42 million?
Or is it 100 million?
Well,
I mean, when you look at what's happening today, I think we
Well,
ought to
yes.
at least even talk
well,
about it.
we can't, but the top number right now in all of our the options that have been presented would be 66 million. Now that's if we do everything, including the equity for each of the elementary schools. So, like I say, I don't know. I don't know what their presentation is going to look like without us giving them, you know, a number that says, yeah, this is what we want. In this range, we might want to, you know, issue a bond for X amount of dollars.
So what we did, when they came last year, what we asked them to give you was, if you continued your current annual debt service payment, but renewed that for the length of a bond issue, what was your borrowing capacity? They're gonna come back and refresh those numbers in terms of your annual debt service payment wouldn't change, but if you issued a bond issue, what could that amount of that bond issue be? So when they come back on the 28th of March, that's what you're gonna see. Based on current interest rates and what they're seeing in the market, what is your capacity to take out a bond issue that would not increase your current debt service annual payment?
Well, what I would like to also see is what if we had to increase our annual, just suppose we threw a number out, say $1 million beyond our current debt service, how much borrowing beyond that could we perhaps afford, or could we find dollars that would support additional borrowing beyond what I think, if I recall, it was like 37 million.
That's pretty close to
Yeah.
what you're gonna see.
But what if we said we'd like to borrow 45 million? What is that? I mean, to meet some of these project costs, and see what that would look like, and through efficiency, can we fund another $1 million? Yeah, I'm just throwing $1 million out,
I
but
was gonna say that you went to 1 million and 1.45 million, so that's a big difference there.
I'm sorry.
You you said about 1 million more, but if you're looking at, they're saying 37, and that's like another 7 million more, so I guess the
I'm
question.
talking about I'm talking about the annual debt service.
I understand. So I guess the question is, if for each million we would go over what they tell us, what would that do to our debt service?
Yeah, you
So
could-
that way you could
Yeah.
you could figure it out yourself from there.
But the scenario that I was trying to say is maybe, I'm just throwing this out, maybe we could borrow another 10 million, but it only affects our annual debt service by $1 million.
Oh, I got what you're saying.
Yeah.
So your current annual payment is 2.5 million. So the conversation that we currently had with them to prepare for next Monday, not this coming Monday, the 28th,
Right.
was what would that look like beyond you would be fully paid off in 2030. So if we go beyond that with the debt issue, what is your borrowing capacity? So what we can do in preparation for, I can ask her to give us different scenarios, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what I would like to suggest is maybe, I don't know how difficult this, I don't think it'd be difficult for them, but just maybe increments of 500,000 on an annual basis. You know, how much more can we borrow that would add 500,000 to our current debt service?
Okay,
But the four of those,
okay.
500, a million, million and a half, 2 million.
Oh, Mr. Kinley, what are y'all planning on us incorporating in all this debt? What is it you want to do?
I want to be more efficient.
More efficient?
Yeah.
So you're talking HVAC in the schools and,
I'm talking about class sizes, and when we talk about adding teachers at Avis or Elementary or Avis or Salzburg, you can run the numbers for every grade in those two schools. And if you combine those two schools, you can eliminate a teacher for every grade and still be under the class sizes at JSE.
what about the quality of their education?
How does that compare with the quality of education JSE if we do that?
Well, that's the business we're in here. We're supposed to be in charge of making sure our children get the best education they could get.
So you're saying the kids at JSE with a larger class size are not getting a quality education?
No.
The size though is within the limits that we have identified.
And not all class sizes are larger at JSC.
I think I beg to
No,
differ.
you're wrong.
They're
You look at Avis,
most
fifth
of them.
grade.
Okay, one or
Look at some of the
there
stuff
are
from last year.
exceptions. There are exceptions, yes. But overall, if you combine, you will see that almost every grade is the class sizes would be less than JSE. And that's even if you take four teachers and with benefits, you're probably talking close to 500,000 or 600,000. That's a lot of money.
I know,
It's a
but we're
lot of
also
money.
in the business of educating our children for
We're-
the best
that's
possible
right.
education
And it's
we
a
can
lot of
have.
money building on and adding on to schools. I mean,
That's
that's
exactly what would have
astronomical.
to happen. You're
Yes,
talking millions and millions to put in on the back of the JSE. There's no room to bring in any of the schools into our buildings. They were wrong in the Crabtree study.
okay,
They even told us that.
okay, but what about the Hunt study? We just got those numbers.
That's when you pack the classrooms with more students per teacher. Oh, yes.
You're still in line with JSE. And that's what the equity does. Just like he said, they have a better gymnasium, better cafeteria, all those kinds of things.
I disagree with
doesn't
that way.
matter.
You can't make everything equal to every person. And when you build the building, you didn't build them all at the same time. If you build them all at the same time, they would all be the same. Just like when we built Nipponose and Avis, those two buildings were identical to each other because we built them at the same time. You can't go backwards in something and say, oh, they have a better gym. What does that mean? The kids don't look at that. They take gym class. They all get gym class.
So you're saying that you think
I
that
think the
that a
equity stuff
student
is
that a
crazy.
student at Avis, his experience in elementary school is at least equal at JSE.
Depends on what you mean by equal, but I say yes to that. If you're going to compare it to how much space I have in a room, maybe not exactly on everything, but that doesn't make or break that they get the same education.
So you
In
don't.
my mind, it doesn't make.
So
or
you
break.
don't mind that there's 16 kids in a classroom at Avis and 24 in the same grade at JSE? I will tell you, I've been talking with a number of teachers at JSE. They are not happy.
Well, I can give you a solution to that, and they're not going to be happy with that solution either. So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can look at it. What it is that you want. We can create our elementary schools that they all have, all the grade level, like, and we can make JSE and make it a K-3 school. They'll all have them all there, and we can make Avis a 4 and Salzburg a 5. They're not going to like that one either. So, I mean, you're never going to please everybody, but it takes care of that one question that they have. But that's what I'm saying. You just can't throw one question and say it doesn't meet this criteria. criteria. If it doesn't meet this criteria, that criteria, you know, you have to play a balance here.
So you have no problem with smaller class sizes at having two elementary schools open, Avis and Salzburg? You have no problem with that?
No, I don't.
So,
No, I don't.
so,
But I'd like to look at ways that we can help JSE and make that smaller too. Or maybe we look at different ways of how we use our school choice. You know, do we give parents option we give them options, but they have to transport them themselves. I think we can think out of the box here a little bit in some of these things.
okay, so why did we do this study? Are we trying to be more efficient? Are we trying to use our space more efficiently?
Well, I don't know why. Was that a statement that we made when we did this study?
I thought that's what part of,
I would have never done. I'd have never done the second part at all, that equalization thing or equity thing, whatever you want to call it.
I thought it was because if the Plan Con, if it starts up again, we had to have a study, a 5-year study. That's what Dr. Dady said. It was time to get the 5-year study done.
well, we've
again.
got to have a study if we're gonna borrow money also.
But I don't think we ever talked about equity and equal, and there is school choice. The parents, if they're not happy with one of the schools, can take their child to another school.
How many districts do you think have school choice?
I don't really know. I'm glad we have it. It's fair.
Can we afford it?
What does that have to do with it? The parents
what do-
themselves
what
take
do you-
their children.
What
to
do you mean, what does it have to do with it?
The
We're-
parents are in charge of taking their children if they choose a different school.
Would you
No
say,
expense to us.
would you say that we would eliminate this $12 million for athletics that's being proposed?
I'm not for spending taxpayer money on that, no. I want to get fundraisers started. I've been talking about that for a while. I've been doing a lot of research on it. I have some things I need to talk to the board about. But no taxpayer money on athletics, no.
And the board has never actually agreed to or disagreed to what the athletics would look like. That's just a suggestion that we were given.
Oh, sure, I understand. All these are suggestions. We don't have to do it. We don't have to spend a penny on any of these.
We need to do the fundamental stuff that needs to be done. We need to do the HVAC. We have to do that. That's important. That's number one to me. But the educational stuff, I mean, it works. Have you looked at any of the scores? Do you know what our school district's doing in scores for these kids? How it's working, the different schools?
That's like saying we can have 3 in a class and our score is going to improve?
I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have 3 in any of the schools
but-
in a class.
But you're saying that class size is what is producing the scores.
That's not what I'm saying at all.
Well, you're saying
What I'm saying
you're
is
saying
we
what we
don't
have
need
right
to-
now is working.
We don't need to redo any of the educational facilities in our schools.
Okay, well, that's your
They are
opinion.
all working. That is what I said.
Okay.
You are not listening.
Well, I'm trying to find dollars. I'm trying to stop what I consider wasting dollars. Now, you may disagree, but I can show you the waste that's happening in this
I'm concerned
district.
about the kids.
I am too.
No, I don't think so.
I'm concerned about the taxpayers
Oh,
also.
I am too. Believe me, I'm a taxpayer. I've always been a taxpayer
well,
here.
All right.
And I'm retired,
I am too.
so I get it.
I get it too. Okay, anything more on item A?
I will say that in my conversation with Mr. Jones after Monday, I asked if you remember when he started, he gave us a step-by-step of this is what the process would look like. I asked, he's hasn't shown us that in a while, but if you recall, one of the last steps was to get input from the board and incorporate that in the study. And we had the executive session where we went through maps, and he's presented twice since then. And so my question to him was, basically, what's next? What else do we have to do? In terms of that step by step, we're fairly near the end, other than he would need to put everything they've done together into a final report. That would be one total study that then you could use to, like Mr. Kinley said, you would need that final study to borrow money or to do a Plan Com project. So that it will be a next step coming from him, that they will work through putting everything they've done into one full report. They may end up updating numbers as prices of things change till the final report comes out, but you will get one comprehensive final report from them that you can use to go into as an artifact to borrow money or to handle Plan Com.
Okay. One thing I didn't understand about that study that they just presented on Monday night, why you would have to add on to any of JSC or Saudisburg or Avis to move sixth grade back when sixth grade used to be there.
What we have, well, but I'm gonna remember you also now have, if you, when we walk through the maps, you have dedicated title and special ed space that I don't know if that was there when sixth grade was there.
Well, doesn't make
I just
sense.
that's my guess. I don't know.
And also like, who brought up, Dr. Dady brought up about, where they didn't even have the third grade, they only have one third grade and things like that. I mean, I wasn't satisfied with that answer that, oh, you can take this room or that room, and you still needed that dedicated space too.
And I will, one of the things I'm gonna do is ask him to update those to make sure that they are complete, because that was a concern that I know was shared at the meeting. The next thing on the agenda is the HVAC project that's currently ongoing with the ESSER funds. As an update, it was on the agenda. Initially, we were gonna put it on the agenda to approve the bids Monday night. Site Logic asked us to not put that on the agenda. They wanted more time to negotiate with the three bidders. They weren't happy with how those negotiations went. The price is higher than what they had planned. So one of the things that I have had multiple conversations with them in the last day. They are going to come to the March 28th meeting to have that conversation with the full board. They're not happy with the equipment prices are okay. The equipment prices are where we expected them to be, within reason of where we expected them to be. It's the quotes for the labor and installation of the equipment. So I did talk to members of the committee individually, just for the public to understand. They're gonna come back on March 28th. Both Hunt and Site Logic are gonna be here to answer questions that the whole board has about that problem. They did talk about rebidding it before you would approve a bid. We talked about potentially splitting it, so it's not one big giant project. You would have a middle school cost, you would have a high school cost. That way we could separate it, potentially attract different bidders, potentially do one right away with the ESSER funds we have, and then talk about rolling one into money that we borrow or take out of capital projects, whichever the board decides to do. But that's where we are with that project. We still are not worried that we can minimally do one or the other, or we can do the amount that we have in ESSER funds already for the coming summer. But the hiccup will be, it will have to be rebid at that amount, because we right now, the bids are over that amount. So we can't award a bid to anyone, because right now, what they're saying it's gonna cost is more than that amount. So either way, we're looking at rebidding it, and we're gonna need some time to do that before we put it on a future agenda. So they're gonna be here on March 28th to discuss that process and what our next steps could look like, and give you some options to move forward. Questions?
So presently, right now, the bid is the whole project. And so we would have to rebid if we wanted it okay. Got it.
No, the HVAC for Salwadesburg, that did not include putting air conditioning in there, correct?
In the feasibility study, it did.
It did?
Yes.
Oh,
That was
okay.
one, that actually came out of one of our board conversations with them, that was one of the deficiencies in that building. That, I believe, if you look through the detail, remember the first report
first
that we
one,
got
right.
had,
Mhm.
similar to what Mr. Francis shows at the
Right.
little line by line. If you look at their line by line that you have, I'm positive it's in there. Mr. Wall, you don't, I'm not speaking out of I'm pretty sure it's in there.
Do you remember what the cost was just for Sal or not?
Not off the top of my head, but
More than the high school?
Well, no, the high school already has there. You're talking about the whole system, putting the system in plus upgrade and everything else.
I'm just talking about the HVAC part of it.
I'll look it up, but I'm pretty sure it would be higher based on the number
Okay.
of units and it would be it would have to be every room and every space. So it would be more units than what we're getting, what we're needing in the high school, plus the chiller infrastructure isn't there yet. So it would be all new piping, units, and infrastructure.
Right. Okay. I just did wonder about that because I didn't even think it included it, but
Other questions about that? Okay. Salisbury roof, I'm gonna pass around Mr. Wall, as you remember, we talked about the last time, I need that. The Salisbury roof, and he told you he was gonna come back with a proposal. So I'm passing around the proposal, and I do wanna draw your attention to, it was on here, Mark, am I missing it? The proposal deadline. So they did it on purpose that if we wanted to move forward, we could move forward at the next board meeting. But remember that, oh yeah, valid for 60 days. That's what I was looking for. You have 1 year left on the current warranty until about fall 2023.
Actually, this part of the building is November 2022.
Okay.
That's what.
Did I misunderstood you the last time? What, 3? Yeah, 23.
I thought so. One of the conversations that I have had, and they're going to talk about this, I have asked Hunt to talk to you about this as we talk about a potential another, obviously, changing the current project will put a hiccup in it, but we had all talked about another HVAC project that would work similar to what we did in the high school, but with local funds. One of the things they have said to me is the type of project that we're doing under the ESCO energy savings umbrella, a certain percentage of that cost can be items that are not energy savings related. So for example, you could do a roof or you could do a parking lot. If you go into a building and do an energy savings project and it's $2 million and they allow you a certain percentage of that to be non-energy savings related items, you could roll those two things together. You could go to that building, do an energy savings project and the parking lot, or do an energy savings project and the roof. Does that make sense? So they've talked to me about the fact that since we have some time here, that they would be interested in having that conversation putting this into a larger project, if that makes sense. unless anybody feels strongly that we need to move forward now. We asked this before, Mr. Wallace. Are you comfortable waiting another year on this?
So like we could look at what we're doing HVAC, middle school, high school, and look at the elementary schools, and you can also include this as part of that. Okay.
Yeah, you could essentially do a second energy savings project, include the HVAC work and other buildings. And then, for example, if you were going to go to Sal and do the HVAC there, they would look at what is your percentage cap of non-energy savings related work, and would this roof fit into that project? Instead of it being a separate standalone project, they would go in there and do both things at the same time.
So, just for clarification, if we would look at the remaining schools, I'm just throwing this out, to do what we're doing with the two that we have presently already bid and whatever. We could use this, roll into it, and we'd be looking at the total price or only the price for that building that you can do the percentage. If we make a big project that's 3 schools, like right now we made a project that's 2 schools, even if we say those 2 schools, we could have added a roof to the middle school or the high school and it could have still been part of that.
No,
It has to go by individual school. That's
it would
what I'm
have to
asking.
go by, it would go by the project itself. So if, I don't remember what they told me the percentage was, but let's say it's 30%.
Right.
If they tell you the energy savings project cost is $2 million, that means that 30% of that could be, you could add 30% onto that of other work to that project that doesn't have to be energy savings
Okay.
qualified.
But that can be more than one school, the project?
Oh, yeah.
itself?
And that kind of goes into letter D, the parking lot conversation. That would work the same way. So one of the things they said was, and we had this conversation with the high school parking lot, because after the last capital projects meeting, I talked to them and they said, we would really prefer you not do the high school parking lot prior to this HVAC project, or at the same, well, one, they don't want us to do it in the same summer because they don't want to worry about, got people in there trying to pave and I have people in there trying to put HVAC units in and they're getting in each other's roads. But two, and Mark brought this up, I don't want to have a crane in there to put a rooftop unit on the gym and it's sitting on brand new pavement and just cause a problem. So they did say, one, they would prefer we not look at middle school and high school parking lots because they don't want to be, whatever they do this summer, they don't want to have to be working around a paving project. But two, similar to what I just said about the roof, that could be included as your percentage of non-energy savings work that would be part of a project, energy savings project at one of those buildings. So for example, if you're going to do energy savings work at Avis, they may be able to get the parking lot done in that percentage capacity of that project. Questions about that? They will, and I will update him that we had this conversation. That's one of the things that they wanted to be able to present to and talk to the whole board about in a potential next step, because we all know that we've talked about continuing the HVAC work that would all be energy savings qualified, that they'll want to talk about, back to Mr. Kinley's comment about priorities. There's other priorities that we want to put into that project. They would like to be involved in that conversation. And then, pass this out, the Johnson House conversation.
So we're not gonna look at any parking lots?
Well, maybe, hold on, let me back up. So I guess that's the question. How does the board, how does this committee want to proceed with parking lots?
Do we have any figures at all at this point or no?
Yes, if you had figures yet on parking lots.
I mean, we can take out the middle school and the high school. what's the need, is it feasible to do any of the other ones at this point in time?
You had it broken out by location.
What page is it? Yeah, oh, what's the thing?
So is there a parking lot that needs to be done? Separate from the middle school, high school, since we can't do that
I
with the
think
work going on?
Amos's parking's in pretty decent shape. Salisbury, that is one that could be done if we weren't working there. I had broken that down, different areas of the lot, came to just less than $446,000. Jersey Shore on 9th Street, there's some there that us during the renovation, that came to $172,000. This parking lot here, looking at almost $500,000, but remember we did talk about, downsizing it with the to do everything, $2 million.
So that includes the 500,000 here, or are you talking all parking lots? You talking just those three, or are you talking all parking
That
lots?
was 3 different locations other than the same
Okay,
complex.
okay.
Does Commander move forward and help you? I worked for PennDOT for a long time. If you can take milling material from jobs where they went out and, cut up the pavement in the little chunks, it's called milling. You can take that same material, mix more bituminous liquid with it and a little more grit, whatever, and heat it up and put it back down. And you can save a lot of money by using recycled milling material. I just thought I'd let you know that.
You need a company to do that, though? Do you need a company like to do that, or?
I think most companies, most large.
But it's not something we could do
paving
in-house.
companies will do that.
Yeah.
Senior, the senior high Mary came to $865,000 to do everything up there, and middle school is $298,000.
Is that with the milling that Mr. Pryor was speaking about, or is that?
That's not how they have it expected to do now. That was straight out of the site development from Hunt Engineering. They basically sent a site engineer out, looked at all of our asphalt areas, and that's the straight. Wasn't, I guess, the number.
So if we looked into that, maybe the price would be less, or
That's possible.
is it as lasting, Mr. Pryor?
Pardon?
That milling, is it as lasting as the usual?
Oh, yeah, all they do is, the thing is with milling, when they take it up, the surface of that roadway being weathered and everything, it dries it out.
Yeah,
So when you add oil to existing bituminous material, it refurbishes it. And you add a little, more liquid to it, more tar and everything, and some more gravel, a little more gravel. And you mix it all up, it's melting. The old pavement is melting and mixing up. You put it back down, you can save yourself a lot of money. And concerning the oil prices right now, you gotta save what you can. So you could look into that if you would. It's up to you. I'm just want to save the taxpayers some money if I can.
thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah.
Thoughts? I guess, do we want to move forward with Mr. Wall looking into that and seeing if we can find anybody that would do it for a different price?
Right, I think we should.
I think we should too.
Well, either Site Logic or Hunt might be able to tell you that they know people that do it that way. Tear up the old, repurpose it, and
Yeah, there might be a company that does that. That could do that for us.
But do we want to at least prioritize excluding the middle school and the high school, if to prioritize what areas we'd want, or do we want to just hold off until we get perhaps revised costs?
Cost ongoing,
Yeah, the milling and, yeah.
Right.
I mean, hopefully it would be simply well, I don't know. A square yard number. Is that quote, do we have a quote for that, or we just have the hunt numbers? Okay, okay. So we don't have a,
they get somebody, the job we found that lots of bids and
yeah, but the only thing now is we're into March, and for them to do, anybody to do anything in the summer is, we may even be too late now.
Actually, they can mill your parking lot and use that material as well to refurbish it and put it back down.
that's what I thought you were saying, Mr. Bryant.
Pardon me?
That's what I thought you were saying. We would use what we have.
You can do that, but you can also use stockpiled material to add to it if you want to put a thicker layer.
Okay,
Fascinating.
I just
I
wanna make
didn't know
sure I
they
was-
did that.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll check with Hunt because I just pulled up Sal, for example, and in 2 of the 3 lots, they actually have it in the line item as mill and overlay. So I'm wondering, they may have already been
Looked at a combination.
that way, I don't know, but I'll double check with them because that might have been what they were quoting us.
it's broke out. All different areas are all different. Like when I wrote this up, I took each one of them and just kind of gave a brief description where it was at and the length.
Okay. I will check with Mr. Jones and I put Mr. Mark check around too. We can find. I'm kind of on it now. Any questions? Anything else about the parking lots?
Are there any, time-wise, are there any that if we don't do something this summer, okay, yeah, okay, yeah,
High school parking lots and specifically hard on the parking lot.
good. Okay, the Johnson House, high school entrance.
So I just passed around to you the the survey that Mr. Wall had been asked to get for this committee. um, Give you guys, so that you have an idea of what we do actually own around the Johnson House. In the middle of that map is labeled house, and then that hard line around it is the Johnson House property,
Which is our property.
which is our property. Yep. Yeah, the question kept coming up is where exactly is our property line for that area, so that you can see there's where our property line is. And that, if you remember, that conversation was generated around what could we do up there if that wasn't there.
Well, it's pretty good size. I mean, it's 3/4 of an acre, almost.
We own quite a bit of the property on that side of the Johnson
3/4.
house, more than I thought. I went up there and looked at it.
So what are we thinking about putting along that side there, like another chain link fence or something, or? Here, with this property here, Mark?
We've suggested different things, but I'm not sure where the board wants with it. You know, we checked in, there's no setbacks up there, so we could just define that line that we established,
Yeah,
divide it that way, however the board sees.
well, I definitely think we need to put something along that property there, so they don't keep encroaching.
So we had, Mr. Wall had provided at the last well, 2 meetings ago, because then last meeting we were going to come back with a survey and the surveyor wasn't done. So the first step was to figure out where the true property lines are, but we'd given an estimate for removing the house and graveling that whole area, but also putting up a fence. Now we've taken care of the storage shed because we're going to do that in-house in the stadium. So that we don't need to worry about that, but we would need to, one of the things on that list is, I accidentally skipped over. In order to tear that house down, we would have to change the electric. If you remember, the electric feed to the stadium goes through that house. We would have to put up a pole and change that existing electric input to the stadium. So I guess the question is, what is this committee, I want to talk about what this committee thinks now that you have an idea where your property is. What are your thoughts?
So what's the electricity from that house use? What use does it have? Oh, okay. And how much is it to put the pole up then?
Well, it depends on how we want to do this. I think we should probably be smart about this and try to size the new power fee for anything.
Up there.
Well, we decided a number of years ago, and it just never happened. Now, come on, Mark, where they were supposed to come down that side of that soccer field, but
That's on this cost evaluation.
Right in the press box. Is that what you said?
I don't think we just want to put a 200 amp service into.
No. Right.
Because it really determines if we want to.
you're better to pay it up front than to go do it once and then do it a second time.
Yeah.
A lot of these costs on here, soft costs from PP&L, can't give you a drop in. Removal of the Johnson House, I'm sure if I went back down to do that. Landfill prices are up 10-15%.
So is our first priority here to move the electricity first? You're certainly not gonna take the house down and then to say move the electricity. Right, it's not used anymore. And I would almost definitely say you'd have to go three-phase.
A lot of the new stage, the new lighting is all 3 days. Is there any crossing on that road underground? Underneath in there? I almost think that goes underground.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
Underground right into that. We need to be cognitive of the fact that that's our main entrance to our building now, and that we want to keep the appearance of that entrance. So that's one of the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'd really like to see is a wire hanging across the road at the entrance. I think 3-phase would come from Baldburg side. We'd have to look.
Right, not even.
That's where we talked about setting a pole before.
So we should get a definite price on doing that, because that's probably something we should go ahead and move forward, and move the electricity. Then how fast we do the other stuff becomes immaterial.
Yeah, to me, that has.
Get
to
that
be the first
electricity
step.
cut off to the house and get it moved to where it should have been in the first place.
So, we can have Mr. Wall come back with a definite quote.
Next
from
month.
DP&L, and I'm assuming there would have to be a contractor then to connect it. And that you can bring that back to this committee, and we can take that recommendation.
To the
If
board.
we decide to, then we can take it to the board.
What I would also like to see, since the survey is done, a priority of getting, a fencing or something up between those properties. So whatever, I mean, what were the options that you had for,
And Nancy, what do you think the fencing is going to do? Where would you put it, and how much? What would it do?
it would keep them from coming onto the property?
No,
Like,
no, it doesn't. You're not going to fence in that whole thing.
no,
uh,
I'm just talking along here where this side right here.
Next to the body shop.
Yeah, from the body shop, because they keep putting the cars like over onto our property.
I know, but
And parking
what
them-
I'm saying to you is, I don't know that the fencing stops that. That's my.
Well, they're not going to put a car in between a fence.
So you're
gonna-
putting the fencing down this side,
No, up. Here,
across here.
from here to here.
She's pointing here.
I'm telling you, I don't think it's going to stop anything, but that's just my opinion.
But it'll stop them from,
That'll stop maybe a little bit, but a lot of times they put them right into grass. That's why I say, what are you fencing, and what's the purpose of the fencing?
well, we couldn't even find our pins because the vehicles were on there, correct? On our property. So why wouldn't you want to at least have something right there? That's the only part I'm talking about.
But I don't think it solves the complete problem you're thinking it's going to solve. That's all I'm saying. It might solve that they don't have it right there on the edge of the, but they do it much more than just there. I'm okay. It's just that I don't think it's going to solve the problem.
The problem of what?
If you're thinking that they're never going to have cars on our lot, I don't think that's happening.
Well, they park all along here, right?
And then I'm telling you, when I was up there
Road
that one
here.
time, we had to go across this land in order for the buses to come in and get our kids. So that ever happens again, I guess you're going to bring them up the wrong way. We had to go through their property, of which they left us do. I mean, they even cleared out the area so the buses could come through.
I mean, at least it'll be a clear marking though, what is our property, that they're not going to be across. Even I think down at the road, if there's a fence going from there to there, from here to here, I don't think they would be parking over on this side as much when they see that there's a fence there that what belongs to Jersey Shore School District.
The 25,000 that you had provided for the fence, is that just,
That was a lot more fence than just that side.
Okay,
side.
yeah.
That was coming, as soon as you pull into the high school road, it would have been a facade just to have more of a presentable entrance.
That would have been along the entrance,
All right,
along the entrance, up
Yeah,
that
right.
side that Nancy's talking about. And would it have gone over and connected
It would
to the water company as
It
well?
would've separated that whole boundary line, basically, anywhere that anybody could encroach. Eliminated at that point.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
But like I said, when we did that, we didn't know where the property line was, so basically that is the driveway right away. So we wouldn't even be able to put.
Okay.
Fence would have to be on these darkened lines.
So we could not put a fence from that corner, the corner labeled number 4 and the bottom left. Or
To the left of the drive.
you couldn't go from there left.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
There has to be a clearance also, doesn't there? On,
There's no
like
set-
10 foot,
There's no set.
no
There's no
setbacks.
setbacks up there,
Talked
so.
to the county, they said, if we know that, if I be sure where your property lines are, which they are, then we could set the fence
Right on it.
center with the property.
Oh, really? Okay,
You could get in trouble if you don't
yeah.
think you know where it's at. I think if we're gonna do anything, actually get, I'm gonna work with the surveyor to mark it better, just because I don't think that we'll do something right away. I don't want to lose the property.
Yeah.
Get a final invoice from him on that. I had in there $3,800. He gave me a bill this morning, $1,250.
And that's for what? Okay. What the heck?
You really don't know.
I must have put snooze on it instead of stopping.
Do you want to see an updated cost on, you want to see an updated cost on that section? Do you want us to give you some options? The other thing that we've talked about since then is, do we plant like a row of bushes there, little trees or something? I mean, there are some options that we could give you on that property line, but I'm looking for some direction of what you would like.
Is there anything that that our students can do? Like, can they build a fence?
I don't know that fencing is in any of their task grids. I'd have to check and see if that's I doubt it's in property maintenance. I know it's not in building trades.
A lot of projects are kind of difficult for them sometimes. The time
Right.
definitely capable. It's just
So what would happen, say that the road into the school all had to be redone? So they had to close off the road, like Mary was saying, they had to do it.
It wasn't us that closed off
right?
this, it was the township or the borough or whatever up there, because they were
Doing
fixing
work out
potholes.
on
Oh, okay.
Schaefer Lane.
So what would we do, though?
No, they were doing it right on the beginning
Oh.
of the entrance. There was a big, I don't know why they covered it, but they did. It was right up there. Just,
a lot of times they'll give you different access, but anybody that's ever done work at Jersey Shore's always tried to schedule it around, even our bus routes during the day. They'll let us know, a month at a time, hey, we're gonna be closing down this road, so you can make those things are pretty complicated.
So we'd have a way to work with that, just in case,
I believe.
yeah, all right.
We don't have horticulture, right, in our school, no.
not a high priority an occupation. You heard Steve say that, even though it's in our strategic plan.
What kind of fencing are we talking about? Chain link or?
I believe a 6-foot chain fence with, vinyl fabric.
I mean, the existing chain link fence, is that 6 feet?
On the other side.
The other side.
On the stadium side.
It's higher than that, it's probably 8 to 10.
Okay.
I just figured.
It's definitely higher than 6,
I
no.
just figured
A line.
that's what I was looking at. Arms across there.
I think we need to do something.
We talked about trees.
Just
we talked
looks
about
bad.
green areas. Trees would probably be-
Probably the least expensive.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, well, we don't know what the 25,000, guess he said it was this and over here.
Yeah, it was in the driveway, this and across the
Yeah.
back. So it definitely would be less than that to do just one
Yeah.
piece.
Well, I guess I would like you to check costs, and if we can see if the students are able to do it, that would be great.
I think it would be good to get up these costs. We need to talk about it. Something to make it.
Makes you wonder if it's gonna get better as we move along, you know, maybe everything will come back down. Just trying to get people to work.
But one thing, once things go up, they often don't come back down.
Terrible.
So I'll check with Mr. Keene about the possibility of student work and we'll get updated quotes. And maybe potentially we'll look at. So do you have a preference on what you would like to see quotes on? Fencing, barriers, trees?
I don't want any of it, so whatever you do, I don't care.
I
We
would-
need to start with the electricity, and then if they want,
Okay.
like, what are we gonna,
Whatever's
because
the
we don't really
cheapest.
know what we're doing with that area, gravel and over, we're gonna just gravel it over to be gravel? Are we using it for something? Or if you want it to be somewhat of a extra, overflow parking lot, then when we do the parking at the high school, you might put together the stuff and put the macadam right there with the milling and stuff. So I think we need to be a little more foresight on where we're actually going with it.
I don't know what your thoughts, parking, overflow parking for the school.
Not school. Don't get me started in the school. When I was there where there were 1,200 students, there's now less than 700, and there'll never be enough parking. You can put 5,000 spaces up there, and they'll still tell us there's not enough parking. We survived when there was 1,200, but we can't survive when there's 700. I just don't understand that one, but that's okay.
There's lots of parking on the borough streets.
They didn't park on the Borough Street when I was there. I mean, they tried to, but that didn't last long. I mean, I'm okay, you can get prices on that, but I think we need to force thought as to really what we're using that for then once the house comes down. Because that's the ultimate goal, to get rid of that. That's an eyesore too, as far as I'm concerned, the house.
Planning to use it for was just parking. When the events are up there, especially track and field, multiple schools.
Yeah, because they don't want to come from the parking lot up.
Mark, did you gravel that? Did you have to do a water management plan? Not if we gravel. I think that was one of the reasons why we initially started with gravel. Yeah, because we paved it, that's when that gets. A little parking lot turns into. Turn a little water.
And there's definitely some grades in that place up there, especially around the concrete pit. I mean, that's by no means level up there.
Taking the house down, that's in their cost to basically.
Smooth that out.
add that,
Okay.
Put a nice fresh coat of stone in
Okay.
there.
So you think the base is okay? I mean, if we just put stone over it, would we have to,
I would think it would be okay, but even at that point, something like that, we'd have to put it out to bid.
Right.
Just say. Comfortable with it. So if you look back, even, we're talking about, I think it was like 10,000 or 8,000 at one time. And just,
Okay, so
And the-
I guess we haven't given you
Getting the
options yet.
cost on moving the electric, the definite cost, for sure.
And a couple,
I always, like I said, outsize that for future lighting, that way it's, I look what the light comes.
and just so we have options for any kind of, yeah. And I guess to get some numbers on any kind of fencing, just for that one side. And
We'll see what that does to the price.
yeah, and an alternative would be maybe some of those fast growing arborvitaes or whatever.
I'm laughing because he can't pronounce it either. He'll tell you what they are.
I call them abs.
There you go.
And see, just stand up. We'll show you what an
I
ab.
don't know. I'm a bad model for that.
We'll show you what an ab looks like.
I've done jobs with our guy, I use him a lot, we've done part of the work, it wasn't to avoid it costing, it's just like, we would set the posts and concrete, he would come back and stretch it. He has the tools to do it.
Oh.
We could- he's basically.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't.
Okay,
Any other questions?
before the storage shed quote.
Oh, storage shed quote. I didn't send that to them, sorry, Mark.
I got a quote from it's basically what we've done in the past for our students, we purchased a kit for like a storage shed garage, there's a few on Filter property, one at Davis, one at Alpine Building Supply is the name of the them was a 24 by 32 by 10 foot garage. Like I said, it would come as a kit, basically everything would be there, to build it. And then I talked to a couple of CTE instructors. That's how they would prefer to do it. Cut lumber off a pile.
Oh,
build it.
okay.
Doing it this way, it's the plans for the planning plans come with it for the township. My staff. Concrete. Just the base cost of the kit itself, for that size, was $11,200. I think, what was the budget on that originally?
And you're comfortable that that's big enough,
Well,
or that's what fits up there? What is that?
that will definitely fit easily. As soon as you go into the complex, straight to the left, there's a pretty good section of grass there. I don't know that we use. And we could even go bigger, 24, but I kind of had one of my guys measure underneath middle school where we keep things now, and that's pretty equivalent to what that is. And I wanted to look at this with Serena at some point to kind of custom build it to fit a couple different teams' needs. We're gonna use it-
Right, like at the pole barn now, we have three overhead garage doors because each of the different areas have
If we want to put garage doors on, 11,000, there's some
just the building.
concrete's gonna be a couple thousand as well. So we will still be underneath.
22 was the original, yeah, what you,
Yeah, that's cost of that. What's in there, that includes garage doors with it. Wanted to put 2 more garage doors on the other side for accessibility. Kind of thought about keeping it away from the fence a little bit so we can work, maybe section it off down the middle, have 4 different spots. Doesn't matter how she.
So you said you like measured underneath where the stuff is being stored now. While we're looking at that, and then probably very little more than, we should look at what's already up there as a little bit, and they shouldn't be storing anything in there. There's food and stuff there, and so that's not a big area. There should be an area that definitely they can store that kind of stuff that they just throw in there.
Yeah, I mean, the back of the soccer field house is javelins.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably take the side of the wall and put things that they just stick them up on.
Yeah, I want to build to fit the need. One good thing about this is they're a CoStar's vendor, so. And like I said, the kids.
What did his kids, or wasn't he here then when we did the pole barn?
I was here when they built the one at Davis. They built the one at the high school. I'm not sure who built that one, but whoever back John Slack did Davis.
And does it hold up pretty good?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They're not something, they're not insulated or anything.
Right.
All the panels are 50-year panels.
So I guess what I heard was the next step is we'll talk to Serena and we'll pick the specific, as long as you guys are okay with that process, we'll pick out exactly what we want. And then he'll be able to come back to you with a specific price. And then we can, as long as you're okay with that, we can take that to the board for approval.
and that's something that would have to be done during the school year because you're gonna have the class do it. So it could be done in the fall, or we might have to wait the spring. Be nice to do it in the fall by then, but you have soccer up there, so I don't know how that.
Or the slab at a time. Work with the CT classes.
All right. Number 5, capital project tours.
Just as an update, we have done the high school so far. I'm looking at my calendar just to remember when we have show. But there are 2 coming up.
Next week, I think.
Avis, those of you that are doing Wednesdays, next week, Avis and the middle school, and then the following week is the Monday before the board meeting, Avis and the middle schools. They're pretty much together in terms of your different people coming at different times, but they're seeing the same process at the same time. Everybody's been through the high school at this point. Next up is Avis in the middle school. We will meet at Avis. Go from there.
All right. Before we can do it now, I guess. The next meeting, we've scheduled these a month or so ago, but the next 2, I guess. Is that as far as we went? To May?
I believe,
To May? Okay.
I can look at May.
Bless you.
Nope, we have May scheduled as well, May 18th.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get the June yet.
But the next one will be April 20 at 3 o'clock. Okay, we can open up to the public again.
While he's coming to the podium, I did ask Pam to add
Pass them,
the second courtesy of the floor to the agenda template. It wasn't on.
Thank you. The scoreboard at the track, what is the status of that? When will that project be completed? What needs to be done? Mr. Andrews, you know all about that. What needs to be done
I
at
think
the
you're
track?
talking about the press, are you talking about the scoreboard, or are you talking about the press box?
That's fine.
No, I'm talking about the scoreboard right now.
The scoreboard is 100% done. I think what you're referencing is potentially putting in a fully automatic timing system for the track team.
Right.
That can be tied into that.
That was part of the project,
Well,
right?
no, we bought a scoreboard. It wasn't part of the project. We bought a scoreboard that is capable of handling. So there has been no talks about buying an FAT system for the track team.
I recall that there was a discussion about that. That was my understanding, that was the total project. So that when we have track meets, the timing shows right up on the scoreboard. And it's kind of a neat arrangement.
We bought a scoreboard that's compatible with that type of system.
Right. So to purchase that additional, whatever it is, what, you have a cost estimate, what that, it's a computerized,
I don't think we ever,
I thought it was 25,000 at one time.
well, I know they come in all shapes and sizes and criteria. Depends whether or not you want to have an Olympic track meet up there.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the regular track meets.
Yeah, I mean, there are a variety of things you can do with an FAT system, different levels. I mean, it's like anything else.
So we can show the running times on the scoreboard.
Yes,
During the
any
track
scoreboard
meets.
that is compatible with those systems.
Okay. Well, it'd be nice if we move forward and complete that. The second thing is that the press box. The board approved the press box there at the soccer field, but it's never been constructed. I'd like to know what the status of that is. The engineers came in and did a structural analysis to make sure that the existing structure would support a press box, and they determined that it would support a 7 by 11 square foot building. And that was the condition that you go forward with the project. The project was presented to the board with that condition, and that condition said, yeah, it can be done, but the project has never been done. When is it going to be done?
Is that something we can do in-house, or it isn't?
I believe what was decided was we weren't going to do anything until after the studies.
See, that's come up too, and I've never heard that. There wasn't a board decision. That didn't go to the board, and that wasn't a board decision that we stop all construction, stop all potential capital projects until we completed the Hunt study. That never was formalized. And it also was understood that our maintenance staff would construct that press box. And that press box is related to the moving of the electricity. You're going to have to move electricity over to the press box, and you'll need electricity for the loudspeakers and so forth and so on. So it kind of ties in with the Johnson House project.
Well, I mean, I would like to see it done because it's terrible up there. It's like antiquated, like we have no, I mean, who announces like from a car?
Been that way for 20 years. Why it hasn't been done? It's it was
Well,
just one of those things that just kept get put aside.
right, you keep putting it off, and then now everything costs triple.
I don't know where going, but there are speakers on the scoreboard.
Because there was no. Well, they used to have them on the
Do they work?
little building there.
They're brand new, so I'm not sure what, like I said, I'm not sure why they're doing what they're doing, but there are speakers. I'm not sure.
Is it all hooked up? I mean, that they can be used? Well, I don't know why. Check with Serena to see why we're not using
When
the
you say
speakers.
they, you're talking about anybody that uses the field.
Anybody that works the game, the announcers. that, and all that stuff was tested. I don't know if we tested it directly after it was done, or it was, I think we pushed it off a little bit, because the warranty was started at that point. I think that's when.
And I think the estimated cost for that score, or that press box, is sort of in-house labor, but the materials was the big cost, and I thought the estimate was, what, 10 to 15,000 to do that, so it's not an expensive project. I've attended TAC meets for almost 40 years and observed a really old-fashioned way of doing business, and I've gone to other school districts where they had press boxes and they announced events and so forth and so on, and they didn't announce the events from a loudspeaker sitting in a car. But anyway, I wish we'd move forward on that and do it and get it done. There'd be a lot of happy parents and happy students.
Let's get
Okay.
some information for the next meeting.
Okay.
So we can keep moving forward.
Which I'm sure will be a lot more.
Thank you. On the Johnson House, we've been discussing that now for 5 or 6 years, too. I've demolished the Johnson House. I'd fill in the hole with topsoil and reseed it and plant grass and that's the end of it. I wouldn't put gravel in there because that's the next door, your friend, the guy next door is going to park vehicles in there if we
Right,
gravel that.
that's why we need a fence
Just
up there.
seed it with grass and then get out of there.
Uh-oh.
I really have a problem with replacing the blacktop on the parking lots. I really have a problem with that. That does not need to be done. I've inspected all the parking lots. I've driven over the parking lot. And I think what I'm hearing here is you want to completely remove the existing blacktop and redo all the parking lots. That would be a huge waste of taxpayers' money. You need to have a maintenance program and fill in the soft spots, fill in the potholes, but the lots do not need to be replaced. I really have a problem with that. And I don't know what the total cost estimate that you came up with, what, 4 or 5 million?
2.5.
Yeah. That really bothers me. That should not be done. And the other thing that bothers me, we've had Hunt come in and do this study, and he's identified all these capital projects. It's like all of a sudden, our physical plant is all screwed up. We need to do this, we need to do that, and we need to do this. We don't need to do a damn thing, but maintain what we have. That's my opinion based on 20 years of experience. The carte blanche, just accept all these projects that the architect's coming up with without questioning. We should question every project that they're recommending and see if we agree with them or not. Millions of dollars will be spent on physical plant projects if we go by the Hunt schedule that does not need to be done. Any feedback from y'all on that?
Well, my thought has always been, yes, we have what they consider things that we should do, and obviously they prioritize them from their end. But we haven't really looked at, I keep saying we need to prioritize among ourselves. And we know that we started off with the HVAC at the high school and the middle school, but you know, what is next? And next can be anything that we consider that needs attention, you know.
That's why we had the process, in-house process, the capital projects process. We inspected buildings every year, went through the buildings and identified project as needed. And we schedule it as needed, on an as-needed basis, yeah. We're 24 million in the hole now because of capital projects. We're paying it off 3 million a year. We'll have it all out of debt by 2030. We're going to turn right around. go 30 million in the hole again on capital projects and renovations, and in my opinion, it does not need to be done. The only thing one little thing that concerns me, we keep delaying the replacement of 11,000 square feet of roof at the Southeastburg School. We just delay and delay and delay. We put this off now for 4 years. Now, I think I just heard again tonight, you're going to delay that project one more year? Did I hear that right? Why don't we do the project? Initially, it was 11,000 square feet at $20 a square foot. The last report from Mark, that had doubled. The price had doubled. It had gone to $40 a square foot, and the square footage went from 11,000 to 14,000.
Why is that? Do we add more?
You're talking about going from a $200,000 project to a $400,000 project, and we're delayed. We're going to delay another year. How much more additional cost is it going to be in another year? And it has to be done. If the warranty information is correct on a single ply membrane, when the warranty expires, that membrane is no longer warranted, and it's going to go bad. It's going to crack. So I'm surprised that hasn't failed. And you haven't had a serious water leakage problem, but you've been really lucky. And now we're going to delay this another year. Forget the canopy. You don't need to do anything to the canopy. The canopy is fine just the way it is. Just concentrate on the roof itself. Comment?
Why wouldn't we move forward with it? It's part of the structure that needs to be fixed. I think we should move forward with that. I do.
You need to make a decision now, so that it can be done. Be done this summer.
If we can get the people to do the work. That's a problem right now.
Well, we have a roofing contract, Tremco. They've been doing our roof work now, for at least 6 years I've been here. The Tremco's been doing all our roof work, repair work, roof replacement. I'm sure they would probably be able to work this project. They're familiar with. They've even looked at the roof. They've done this testing and found wet spots in the insulation and so forth and so on. So they know about it. We have a contractor that knows about it, and I think there wouldn't be a problem. But you have to allow them time, to put it into their schedule.
I'm looking at the committee members. I mean, you have a quote in front of you that's good until the next board meeting.
I think we should do it, but that's my opinion.
Can they put it in over the summer? We would tell them within the time frame, Mark, can they put it in over the summer?
Yeah, they would.
Put it on over the
They
summer.
wouldn't start directly after. I've already talked to them about the schedule.
Okay.
It wouldn't start directly after school. It would be a few weeks after that, but it would definitely be done.
The one thing he's right about, it's gonna get more expensive. And right now, with what we got back from this last quote, it could get triple.
My previous experience in physical plant had 20 years of experience in physical plant. And the physical plant that I had 1 million square feet of roofs to maintain. 1 million square feet. We have about 400,000 square feet, I think, here. And I had to make a decision when to replace the roof. As a physical plant director, the guidance from the superintendent to me was, I don't want any leaking roofs. I don't want any leaking roofs into our classroom. I said, yes, sir. So when the warranty expired on the roofs in State College, they're single-ply system, we automatically replaced them the next year without question. And the money, where do we get the money? From our energy conservation program, where we were saving $300,000 a year. But I didn't mess around. Warranty expires, the next year the roof was replaced. And guess what? We never had a rookie leaf problem. So when I look at this, I'm coming from 20 years of experience. So, whatever. Any other comments on that? There was a building, there was a committee, Building and Grounds Committee, that Dr. Winrich created, and it was a wonderful idea. In the Building and Grounds Committee, we had the superintendent, physical plant director, the building principal, plant supervisor, and the chairperson of the capital projects. And we went around to all the schools. We had the capital project. We went to all the schools every year and went over the capital projects for that school with the principal. The principals, that was a new thing, and they loved it. They didn't know we had a capital project. So we did that. I think we did that for 2 years, but we went to every school with our list and went over it with the principal. And our particular emphasis was on the year of the budget. The projects were identified on the plan for the year of the budget. Do we nearly need to do this? And then we go out and actually, this committee, we go actually look at the project and we look at it and say, hey, no, we really don't need to do that this year. We can put that off. But this was buildings and grounds. This committee was building and ground, and the director of the physical plant was the chairperson of that committee. Does that committee still exist? I don't think it does.
Just spoke about we actually a little bit more accommodating now. We try to get everybody to come at different times, schools in, schools out, whatever works for the committee members. So we just started that past week.
So you had the building and grounds committee, okay. Then you had building tours for new board members. That was another thing. That was a separate thing, okay. And then we also had the former superintendent. He had meetings set up where he would meet with the township supervisors. No. He had a meeting on all the buildings at a separate time where he invited the public to come in, and what Mr. Pryor was talking about, they would come in and ask questions about anything in the school district. And I don't know if we're doing that now or not. I mean, separate meetings for the public usually we met in the library in the schools.
COVID kind of stopped that, just hasn't started back up.
What?
COVID kind of stopped that, it just hasn't started back up.
But that was a good idea too. Okay, you have any questions for me? This bidding of the univentilators and the boilers, that's what I was worried about. The bid would come in too high and it'd be over your budget. And that's just what you told me it's happened, right? And I don't think how you're going to rebid that and get the price down within your budget range, but maybe they can. Well, we don't have to replace those boilers. There's an option. You don't have to replace those boilers. Those boilers are fine. They're good for another 20 years.
We already have the material.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go, Merrill. What do you have for supper?
Have to stop.
Yeah.
Normally, I don't say much.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Bert Francis, and I'll do it quick. It's getting supper time. I'm going to have pizza right after I get finished here. So, what I consider you folks have just done and had Hunt do is just an extension of what this Capital Projects Committee has done over the years and so on and so forth. Look at our school system, our district, everything else, and come up and just extended this list on out with many, many things that may need to be done or not to be done. So I'm thinking what would be smart right now to do with our school board and our school district. We know that the state of the world right now is serious and critical. We know and almost can depend on things going to happen with our economy. We can almost bet on that for sure. So I think it would be wise, A, to define what this is. Now, I'm saying, I've heard things here that lean towards reconfiguration, feasibility, census, and we have to throw that out. We haven't even got close to that. You're a facility study, Hunt has done a facility study, and people are referring it to more than one thing. I want this board to define it so some of the people are coming that have closing schools in mind, and we know that is the case with some present board members and past members, that so I want a definite title put on what you people are doing and what Hunt's doing. I want to see that titled a facility study, which you people have done an excellent job over all the years. Now, if you want to start about reconfiguration and other things coming out, we got one hell of a good school district. 200 years I've been involved in my family back in history and so on and so forth. People want to complain? No. All my kids, your kids, gone to school, graduated, gone to college. We're proud of this district. And it just makes me sad when I hear people coming in here, people, and putting our district down, our teachers down. And so can I ask the president of the board or president of this committee or our superintendent to guarantee that we will not hear another reference to what we're doing outside of doing a facility study?
Wasn't looking at us, was that?
So he's asking
Hey, I don't do
president
this.
of the board, me and him.
Okay,
I think
I don't do this without
I would
doing my
say
homework.
I'd say we, collectively, the three of us will get together and respond to your
No.
question. No,
Well, yeah, I want a response. Yeah, I don't think it's required any great big response. I know one thing for sure. I've been in construction building all my life, attended many board meetings, committee meetings, so on and so forth. So I just want you not to put the roof on first. If you want to go into reconfiguration, closing schools and moving kids and so on and so forth, you got to do it right. And to try to factor it in now with what you're doing, you're trying to sneak it in the back door. You're trying to sneak it in the back door. Now, I don't approve of closing schools because we took an awful shellac, and don't let anybody tell you that we saved money closing Nipponos and so on and so forth. That deal, and we can document it, cost us $9 million because the board messed up that time. And we were on that heavy and so on and so forth. So when we're talking about reconfiguration, moving kids, we know all about how many kids we can put in elementary school. We know the traffic situation down there. We know the free yard space. We know everything. And I would almost guarantee that you cannot even consider moving kids from Avison Elementary to Jury Shore Elementary without spending big bucks to do it. And I even doubt whether we have the facility in the ground, et cetera, to be able to do it. So that's why I'm saying, let's stick with the facility study. You people take your facility study and then pull in some things that Hunt's done that you think most necessary and continue with this facility studies for the next 2 years that you have it. Work on the things that you can afford, you can consider to do, and keep moving as what you've been doing for all these years. And then we can factor in maybe some of these things. I've done work with Hunt for all my life. I know these people. They're good people, yeah. But I know exact price is up too. So, and we know prices are going to sky high. So all I'm asking you is don't put the roof on first. Let's start now at the foundation and do what's right. We've always taking care of our building and so on and so forth. I'll show you this picture right here. See that nice little picture? My wife went to school there, and her brother went to school there, and maybe your wife might have gone to a one-room school too up here. What's this building? 100 and some years old. We've always taken good care of our buildings. We still have buildings 100 and some years old. We were always noted for good brick and mortar buildings. Broad Street School's over 100 years old. One on Allegheny Street's 100 years old. We got elementary schools way over 100 years. Just do the necessary maintenance and upkeep and factor in what you can. And you've always done it. Just continue to do what you've done in the past. And just let Hunt ride for a while. Just let it settle in and let us see the next report or whatever. And I would hope so. And if we can't do that, we're in big trouble. And I respect everything that you people do. You know that. And it's nice to come here and have the opportunity to talk to you people. Let you know how I feel. And by the way, I just complicate throw in the mix. Mr. Pryor and I, we've gone around for 30 years. You know, he and I have done battle for all these years. He shakes his fist at me when he was president and everything. And I think this is the side for our superintendent. I think he established the policy as to how questions from the public will be considered. And I might even have an email as it states that, I think the policy is that we can ask you folks questions to the president, and that's submitted to the superintendent, and then the superintendent forwards it to frequently asked questions. So that's the last policy I understand how to get an answer. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Well, I remember that being the process when I got here, and I remember you asking that at a board meeting, and Mr. Allen responded that if it was something I had the answer to, I would try and answer it at the meeting, but
Yeah.
if not, we would get you an answer.
Okay, and also, yeah, but anyway, I like to have fun too and so on. And I appreciate everything you folks do for our town community, so on and so forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm not fine spaghetti forever, Well, maybe, friendly. You'd be surprised, every once in a while, you can learn something from all these gray-haired guys once in a while.
Any other business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Well, actually, I should